Alright, your Unit 2B test, along with the graded pair, okay? Alright, so the first thing you're going to have to know how to do is graph. And you have to be able to graph all of these forms of linear equations. Now, can you graph a line given a point and a slope, or y-intercept and slope? So if I give you a point, say I give you the point 1, -4. And then I said that the slope is -2/3. Any point that I give you, that's where you're going to start. If I give you the y-intercept, you're going to start on that point on that y-axis. Okay? If I give you a point 1, -4, then I'm expecting you to go over on your test and go 1 and then go down to -4 and plot your point. Now, the slope I said was -2/3. So what you're supposed to do there is, to get to your next point, you're supposed to go down 2 and to the right 3. You're always going to run forward. The negative is just going to tell you to go down so that you can get your decreasing line from left to right. If it's positive, then you're going to go up and to the right. That's how you're going to get your increasing line from left to right. Alright, so I'm going to go down 2 and over 3. So from this point, I'm going to go down 2 and over 1, 2, 3. And then plot your other point. And since this isn't asking for the y-intercept and the x-intercept, I can go ahead and just draw a line between those 2 points. So, grab my ruler real quick. I'll go over here, and then I'll draw my line. Put arrows on the end, and then that is my line. Now, if they were asking for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, then I would make sure to plot this point and this point on the test. Alright, now that right there is graphing from a point and a slope, or say like the y-intercept and slope. You're just going to plot that specific point. So if I said that the y-intercept was 5, I'm going to go ahead and plot 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I said that the y-intercept was 5, I'll go plot 5, and then I'll go ahead and use my slope down 2 and over 1, 2, and 3. And then I have this right here. This would be my line here. Now these are just examples. Now, these are considered parallel lines because they have the same slope. That's why they're slanting the same direction, because they have the same slope. All right, different y-intercepts, same slope, decreasing lines. All right, so that's how you plot a point and a slope. That's how you graph a line given a point and a slope. That's what I'm expecting you to do on your test. So now, these equations up here, you have slope-intercept form, which is this here, and then you have standard form, which is this here. Slope-intercept form, y is equal to, we're going to do 2x plus 9, 2x plus 9. You need to be able to determine which one is the slope and which one is the y-intercept. So what I always say is just to write. You're going to have scratch paper, so write this down on your paper. Write the slope-intercept form right underneath it. This is your slope. This is where you start with your y-intercept. It's a positive 9, so b is equal to 9. That's my y-intercept. So I'm going to plot this point first, and then my slope is 2. Now, whenever it's a whole number, you're going to put it over 1. And because it's positive, I'm going to go up and then to the right. So I'm going to go ahead and plot 0, 9. So I'm going to go with 0, go up to 9 right here. That is my y-intercept. And then I'm going to go ahead and use go up 2 and to the right 1. Up 2 and to the right 1. And that's exactly what I'm expecting you to do on your test. Now, if you can't go, so you're going to go up 2 to the right 1, 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 up 2 to the right 1. Now, you can completely do the opposite. You can do the opposite to get the other part of your line. You can go down 2 and to the left 1, 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 so on and so forth. But that's how you graph your line. Alright, so that is slope-intercept form. Now it's easy when it is in slope-intercept form because you can identify your slope and your y-intercept right away. But when it's not in slope-intercept form and it's in a standard form right here, negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 12, so we're going to go over here, negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 12. You have to get that into your slope-intercept form. That means you have to solve for your y. So the first thing you have to do is get rid of, you start picking things off over here so that you get y by itself. So the first thing you're going to pick off is this negative 2x. This needs to come over here because y equals mx plus b. The x is over here. So how do you remove it from this side? You're going to add it. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So now I have 3y, 3 times y. How do you get rid of the 3? You divide it. At this time, at this point, you should not have any problems with this. So now y is equal to 2/3 x minus 4. All right. So what does that tell me? Now that I have the standard form into slope-intercept form, and these equations right here are equivalent. Equivalent means that they're the same thing, they're just in a different format. So what is my slope? Just write it underneath. Your slope is your m, so it's 2/3. And your y-intercept is negative 4, so I'm going to go ahead and plot 0, negative 4. Now, since my slope is 2/3, I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 3. So I'm going to start at negative 4. So if I go down here, start at negative 4, and then I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 1, 2, and 3. Up 2 and to the right 1, 2, and 3. Now if they're asking for the x-intercept and the y-intercept, the only points you need to plot is this one and this one, because this is my y-intercept and this is my x-intercept. On your test, I'm expecting you to plot the y-intercept, and then if you need to, keep going to get your x-intercept. Draw a line through it because it's a line, it's not just points, right? And there's my line. Okay, so that is standard form. So when it's standard form, all you do is solve for y and then identify your slope and your y-intercept, plot your y-intercept, plot your slope. Use your slope to get you to your next point, and then you are good. Now, horizontal and vertical lines. Horizontal and vertical lines. The y equals three equation. That y equals 3 is a horizontal line because for every x, y is 3. So when I don't see an x, I know that that's either a Hoy or a Vux. A Hoy or a Vux. Remember, when it is Hoy, and I'm going to put it up here. When it is Hoy, you have a horizontal line, your slope is 0, and your equation is a y equals number equation. Okay? So when I have a point, and it's either parallel or they want that equation, I'm going to go ahead and put the y. Okay? Now, if you have a Vux, meaning you have a vertical line, your slope is undefined, and you have an x equals equation. So again, if you have parallel, or you have just like write an equation, it's going to be the x in your point, because if that point lies on my line, then it has to agree with the x, right? Now, perpendicular is the opposite. So the perpendicular line of horizontal lines are vertical lines, and the perpendicular vertical lines are horizontal lines because they have to cross at a 90-degree angle. So please, 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 parallel, you're going to follow this, but perpendicular, it's the opposite. All right, so y equals 3. Y equals 3 is going to be a, well, that's a y equals, so it's a Hoy. So it's a horizontal line at y equal to 3. Well, it goes through the y-axis at 3. So you're going to, it kind of cues you to tell, if it goes through the y, then it's horizontal. So it's going to look like this. A line at y equal to 3. I know you can't really see that, but there's there. It's there. That's the line, y equals 3. Now again, a parallel line would be another horizontal line, because parallel lines look like this, right? Or like this. Perpendicular are the ones that cross, okay? Are the ones that cross. Yeah. Cross, perpendicular, parallel, yeah. All right, so, yep, let's go ahead and, can you graph the line given a slope-intercept? We already did that. Can you do y-intercept and a slope? We already did that. Point and a slope? We already did that. Standard form? We already did that. Just change it into y equals mx plus b form. Now, there is a thing with the zeros, but if you don't know that, then that is not your strategy that you use. Yeah. All right, and over here we already went over x-axis, y-axis, but we'll go ahead and hit that again here in a minute. Okay, so domain and range. Domain and range. So over here, the domain and the range. Okay, for some of y'all, you got a grade repair, an assignment repair. There we go. Now the domain here is just x's. Now what if I just give you a list of points? So let's say that I give you a scatter plot. Do I have a scatter plot over here? No, I don't. Okay. So let's say that on this line right here, I give you like, let me go ahead and create this thing real quick, this graph. Okay, so let's say that you have a scatter plot, right? Those are just points. That's a discrete graph because they're disconnected. Discrete, disconnected, okay? These are just random points, and you're going to read those random points. So going all the way back to when you learn how to graph, which is in 8th grade, right? Look right here. This is negative 2, positive 2. Negative 2, positive 2. The easiest thing to do when you're given a graph like this is to label all the points, so you can see what's your x and what's your y. Here it's negative 1, negative 2, so negative 1, negative 2. And here it's, let's say I have one at the middle. That's 0, 0. If you did not know that, that's the origin, 0, 0. All right, this one is 1, 2. And this one is 2, 3. Okay, so now you know that each point is an x and a y. And if I'm asking for the domain, I'm asking for x. And if I'm asking for range, I'm asking for y. Now, if that is hard for you to remember, just look at the alphabet. D comes before R, so x comes before y. So domain is with the x, range is with the y. Now, if you still can't remember that, the main character here is x. So that is your dominant variable. That is domain. X has the domain. Okay? It's x's domain. And the range is y. I'm trying to give you some ways just to remember it. Okay, so this is my independent variable, and this is my dependent variable. Independent means that that's what's usually inputted into the equation, so you can get your output. So input, output. Anyways, if I'm asking for domain, I'm asking for the set of all the x's. So all you have to do is just read all the x's in these points for me and list them out least to greatest. So we're just going to do negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2, and you're done. Now the range, I'm now going to list all the y's, the set of all the y values. So all I have to do is go to the y values, which is on the right-hand side of that point, the second number, and list all those out, 0, 2, and 3. And you're done. When it's like this, or a list of points, I need a list of numbers. All right, now let's get into continuous graphs. So it could either look like this or like one on the back that I'm going to show you here in a minute. Here you have to really look at your open circles and your closed circles, because when it's open, when it's an open circle, you're going to have these inequalities without the equal to's. When it's a closed circle, you're going to have these inequalities with the equal to's. So you're going to have a less than or equal to when it comes to giving me domain and range, or a greater than or equal to. So let's look at this. Domain, again, I see the word domain, I'm immediately going to put an x next to it. Okay, when I see the word range, I'm immediately going to put a y next to it. Okay, we're not going to tell you to do that. You're going to have to do that yourself. So the domain is x, domain is x. All right, so I'm looking at my x-axis here. What is my graph covering on the x-axis? And it's covering everything from negative 2 to 5. So my graph covers everything from negative 2 all the way to 5 because there's no arrows, okay? So on my x-axis, it's all the real numbers from negative 2 to positive 5. Now how do you write that? Negative 2 is the lowest number, 5 is the highest number, x goes in the middle, and since this is an open, it's not equal to, so I'm going to go ahead and put a less than. And since this is a closed, it is equal to, so I'm going to put a less than or equal to. So here my answer was E on this. Okay, so that's domain. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at the range. The range is, where's my pink? Here you go. The range is my y. So now I'm going to look at my y-axis. I don't care about my x-axis anymore. I'm looking at it from top to bottom. So I'm looking here all the way up to my highest number, which is here. Okay, so what is that? Let's see. That is, my graph covers all the y numbers, all these real numbers between -2 and 4. And again, it's because you have, that's not -2, that's -1, -2, -3. -3 to +4. So -3, +4, y goes in the middle. This is an open circle, so it's not equal to -3. This is a closed circle, so it does equal at 4. And my answer is A on this one. Okay, so that's how you do your domain and your range on this. Now, those are because it's a line segment, it's the endpoints, okay? But what if you have arrows? So let's look at the back here, arrows. What if it looks like this? Okay, or like this, or like this. This one's like a double arrow, right? Well, here, again, don't, eye on the prize, eye on the prize. Domain is what? Domain is X, range is what? Range is Y. So again, I'm looking at my X. So I go over here, go down my X right here, and this is an arrow. So the arrow keeps on going and going and going and going. It keeps going this way forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So all I can tell you is that this domain goes from -3 and onward. -3 to positive infinity. Okay? -3 to positive infinity. Now, how do we represent that? Well, all you have to do is tell me that my domain is X is greater than -3. Now, why did I use the greater than? I used the greater than instead of the greater than or equal to because this is an open circle. If it was a closed circle, this would be greater than or equal to, X is greater than or equal to -4. That would be the domain on that one. Alright, so this is B. Alright, so now the range. The range is my Y. So here's my range right here. It's 2. Now this is going up forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So it's greater than 2. So I have Y is greater than 2. Now again, I'm using the greater than again because it's an open circle. And I don't care about the X anymore, I care about the Y. The graph doesn't go any below than 2, anything less than 2. So it starts at 2 and it goes up, but isn't, when I say start at 2, but it's not equal to 2, so it's like an open hole, it's a hole. It's not equal to 2, but you can say all the real numbers greater than 2. So my answer is F. Now what happens when you have a double arrow like this one over here? Well, when you have a double arrow, the domain is X, the range is Y. Now the domain here, it's going to cover all my X values, and it keeps going and going and going and going and going, because this keeps going down, 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 down. So it's all the negatives. And then over here, it's all the positives, because it keeps going up, 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 up to the right. So there's no endpoints. Like I had here, this was the endpoint. That's where it stopped. These don't stop. Arrows don't stop. So the domain, it's going from negative infinity to positive infinity, and same thing with the range. It's going all the way down, all the way up, covering all the zeros, all the decimals, all the fractions. So how do we represent that? Well, it's all real numbers. And same thing for the range, all real numbers. It doesn't stop. So you could put C and H right there. And why? It's because of the arrows, okay? Unless I see a definite stop like this, and you see an arrow, arrows are infinities. Alright, so that's domain and range in a nutshell. So that takes us through this one and this one. Now, can I write an equation given a graph and a table? Given a graph and a table. So I'm looking at this right here. Can I write an equation in slope-intercept form if I give you just the slope and the y-intercept? Of course that you can. Y is equal to mx plus b. So all you have to do is put in your slope, put in your y-intercept, and you're done. But that's not going to be your test question because that's too easy. Okay? We can have you do that just by identifying the slope when you're graphing. Just identify slope and y-intercept and graph it. But what do you get to go backwards? So I'm looking at this graph right here. You have to choose your 2 points. I see this point on the grid line, and I see this point on a corner of the grid line. Those are 2 points. Now, you could do this 2 ways. You can bring out your points. This is -3, 1. And this is 0, 1. 0, -1. You could have also used this point here, which is 3, -3. Okay, now in order to find slope, I can use the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's always going to be given to you. So that's why I always default back to stuff that's going to be given to you on your test or on your STAR test. Since this is like a definite like guide that's going to be given to you, you don't have to do the go down 2 and over 3, down 2 and over 3. You don't have to do rise over run if you don't want to. There's always a default, always a backup plan. And some of y'all, when y'all do y'all's rise over run, y'all miscount. And the lines are either close together. So there's a lot of human error that's involved in that. But if you can, and it's really easy, you just go down 2 and over 3, so my slope is down 2 over 3, so it's -2/3. Okay? But let's say that you don't want to do that, and you want to find slope with the slope formula. That's fine. Just know that it's an x and a y. Pick 2 points. I'll go ahead and pick this one, and I'll pick this one. So we have, my y's are here, so I'm going to go ahead and put -3 minus 1 over, and then I have to start with this x because I started with this y. So 3 minus, and then the other x, -3. This is equal to -4 over, now be careful with the minus and negative, that turns into a positive. 3 plus 3 is 6. And this will give you, when you reduce, put this in the calculator, it'll give you -2/3. Now you can reduce this by 2. That means 2 goes into 4 and 2 goes into 6, 2 times and 3 times. So that's how you reduce your fraction. So your slope is -2/3. What we got over here? Now, when you are writing your equation out, if you're given a graph, that's awesome because you can see your y-intercept. This is my y-intercept. It's -1. It's also here. When x is 0, that's my y-intercept. So now that I have my y-intercept and I have my slope, I can just put it into my equation. Y equals -2/3 x minus 1, and you're done. You can always graph that in Desmos or the graphing calculator to just check to see that if that is your actual line. Okay, a point and a slope. A point and a slope. So, can you write an equation given a graph? Yes. Can you write an equation if I give you a point and a slope? Well, yes you can. If you're just given a point and a slope, all you have to do is This is your x, this is your y. That's not the y-intercept, so I can't just do what I did up here where I plug it in, okay? You can't do that. You have to find your b. You have to find your y-intercept. So the only thing I have right now is y equals 1/2 x, but I don't have that b. That's what we're trying to find, okay? So what do? Well, we're going to use our equation y equals mx plus b. I know that the 1xy that's on my point is 5 and 2, so I can do 5 equal to, my slope is 1/2, times my x, which is 2, plus b. What is 2 times 1/2? 1. How do I know that? Because 2 times 1, you're always doing a whole number times the top. 2 times 1 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. If you need the calculator will also give you 1. Now, 1 plus b equals 5. Now, how do I get rid of that 1? You subtract it. So, minus 1, b is equal to 4. Now that you have your slope, now that you have your y-intercept, you can go ahead and write your equation now. Y equals 1/2 x plus 4, and I'm done. Now 2 points, given 2 points, you're not given anything, right, other than 2 points. So you're going to have to find your slope, and you're going to have to do this process to find your b, right, your y-intercept. So I'm going to use my slope formula. Because this is an x, this is a y, this is an x, this is a y. So I'm going to find my slope first. You got to find m and b. That's what we're doing here, finding m and b, finding slope and y-intercept. All right, so I have slope is equal to my y's. Remember, you have this equation, y's over the x's. You just have to start with the same point. So let's say I make this my second point, this is my first point. 7 minus 5, 3 minus 5. So put the y's on the top, 7 minus 5, and then 3 minus 5. You get 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. Right, 7 minus 5 is 2, and 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Yep, that gives you negative 1. All right, now my y-intercept. And now I got my slope, okay? Got one part of my puzzle. So now I have to get my other part. So I have to plug it into y equals mx plus b. You can choose any point you want to. I'll go ahead and choose this one. Y is 7, slope is negative 1, x is 3 plus b. So 7 equals negative 3 plus b, because negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. How do you get rid of that negative 3? You add 3. You add 3. It goes away. B is equal to 10. Now that I have my slope, now that I have my y-intercept, I can go ahead and write my equation. Y equals negative 1x plus 10. Negative 1x plus 10. And you are done. Alright, so you know how to give me an equation with a point and a slope. You know how to give me an equation with 2 points. Now, do you know how to give me an equation given a table? Of course you do. You just did it right here. Because a table is just up. Well, that's not an x. That's supposed to be a y. X is on top, y is on the bottom. Alright, so now from a table, you have x's and you have y's, and these are points. This is a point, this is a point, this is a point. Usually you see an XY table vertical with X on the left, Y is on the right. But we'll go ahead and look at this. Okay, so I can flip-flop this around, and usually you see 414, 620, 723, like that. But again, what you have to understand is that a table is just a lot of points on your line. These are all the points on your line. So how many points do I need to find slope? And all I need is 2 points to graph a line. All you need is 2 points to find your line. Okay, so I'm going to choose 414 and 620. So I'm going to go ahead and use those, check those, okay? All right, so I'm going to use 414 and 620. So 414 and 620. Okay, now what am I going to do? I need to find slope and I need to find y-intercept. So again, it turns into one of these up here. You just have to do everything. So my slope is, if you can't see that your y's are going up, this one here goes up by 6. And this up here goes up by 2. You have 6 divided by 2, because that's my slope, y over x, right? Up 6, up 2, 6 divided by 2 is 3. You can do it that way. Change of y over change of x. Or just use your slope formula. Here's my x's, here's my y's. 20 minus 14, 6 minus 4. You have 6 here, you have 2 here, you get 3. Everything has a backup plan that has a formula with it. So use your formulas. You're given them. So there's a formula. You're going to be given the y equals mx plus b. It's staring at you in the face. Your next step. Y equals mx plus b. Just use one of your points. See how I use this one. It's smaller numbers. Okay, so this is x. This is y. 14 equal to 3 times my x, which is 4, plus b. What is 3 times 4? 12. 12 plus what is 14? 2. Well, if you don't know that, just subtract 12. B is equal to 2. Now that I have my slope, now that I have my y-intercept, I can go ahead and do y equals 3x, because mx plus b plus 2. And there is my line. Okay, now, yes, you are going to have to go from standard form to y equals mx plus b form, which is the slope-intercept form. So how do you get this into this form right here? You're going to need to know how to do that. So this, you have to write, I can't be your hand, okay? You have to use your scratch paper that you're given. So you write it down, and then you just pick it off until you isolate that y, okay? I need to get rid of everything over here except for the y. So I need to get rid of this 2x, and I need to get rid of the 4. I'm going to get rid of this 2x by subtracting it because it's positive. So I'm going to do 12 minus 2x over here. Okay? Now, I didn't do that very well here. Okay. Now, how do I get rid of this 4? What you're going to do is you're going to divide everything by 4. Divide everything by 4. And then your y is equal to, now this is 3 minus 1/2 x. Proper etiquette says that the x has to come first, right? Y equals mx plus b. So y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 3. That's how you rearrange it, okay? But this is my answer right here. If I have to graph it, I graph the 3 first. That's on the y, it's the y-intercept, so I graph that on the y-axis, and then I go down 1 and over 2. To the right 2. Down 1 and to the right 2. Okay, so now, are you able to graph, are you able to write a line given a table? Yes, of course you are. All right, let's go ahead and get into parallel and perpendicular. I started off with this one because this one was kind of easier, right? When you have, this was your assignment from the other day. Where are we on? The parallel side? Okay, so right here, number 4. Let's look at number 4. Vertical lines, horizontal lines. I don't see an x here. So what you're doing is you're solving for y. So you're going to solve for y because I don't have a y equals. So I have y equals to 2. What is that? What is y equal to 2? If I graph it, that's my y-intercept right there, 2. But since y equals to 2 all the time, then it's a horizontal line. And horizontal lines have a slope of, horizontal lines have a slope of 0, and my equation is a y equals a number. That's why you have y equals 2. Now, if I'm looking for parallel to this line, to this horizontal line, then I need another horizontal line. So I need another y equals. Well, if this point is on my line, what does y equal? Y equals -6. That's my parallel line. So y equals -6 would be down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are those two lines parallel? Yeah, they are. They're never going to touch. They're never going to cross because they have the same slope of 0. Okay, so now let's look at the opposite side of this assignment, which is perpendicular. And perpendicular, instead of the same slope, this is the opposite slope, complete opposite. So let's look at number 9. Number 9 was your special case. I do not see a y, so that should trigger that this is a vertical line. Okay, this is an x equals equation. But let's go ahead and find x. So I have this -5 that needs to go over here, so I have to add 5. So I got 3x equal to 9 because I added 5. And then I divide by 3 and you get x equal to 3. Okay, so what does that look like? X equals 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's my x-intercept. I can tell you that. X equals 3. And I have a vertical line because x is always 3 for every y value because there's no y. Okay, so I have a vertical line. So that's where you get this acronym VUX. Okay, vertical line has a slope that is undefined, and the reason why you have an undefined slope again is because there's no run here. So when you do rise over run, you have a change of y, but you don't have a change of x, and you cannot divide by 0 when you're doing slope. Okay, remember, slope is y's over the x's, so you can't divide by 0. 2 divided by 0 in the calculator will give you error or undefined. So you're here, your slope is undefined when you're on a vertical line. Now my equation is going to be x equals a number. That's why we have x equals 3. However, I'm going to throw a wrench in the plan because my line is perpendicular to this line. Perpendicular means I have to cross it. That means I have to have a line going horizontal. So I need a y equals. And so what does y equal? Y equals 2 because this point is on my line. So y equal to 2, 1, 2 will be that horizontal line that's perpendicular to my vertical line, because I told you perpendicular to a vertical is a horizontal. They don't want another parallel line. If they wanted a parallel, it would be x equals 5. But they wanted a perpendicular line to my vertical line. So that's horizontal, and that's y equals 2. Why? Because this point right here, x, y, this is my x, this is my y. So there you go. So if this was my x-axis, right? X-axis is a horizontal line, so parallel to that would be another horizontal line. But perpendicular to the x-axis would be a vertical line because it's going up and down. Again, it crosses it, right? So this would be x equals 3 would be perpendicular to the x-axis. and vice versa with a y. Okay, there we go. That is parallel, perpendicular between the vertical lines, x-axis, y-axis, and the horizontal given a point. All right, now we have to do parallel and perpendicular. Parallel, perpendicular with a line. So, what if I give you this right here? You have this right here. Y equals 2x minus 3. Now, what if I give that to you in a graph? You're going to have to determine the slope of that graph. Okay? So, if I give you a graph that looks like this, you're going to have to determine the slope, because parallel lines have the same slope, perpendicular lines have the opposite slope. So you can write that down here. So parallel have the same slope, and perpendicular has opposite slope. So you have to do two things. You have to change the sign. That's the opposite, but it's also opposite reciprocal. That means you have to flip it. That means that if my slope is 3, my perpendicular slope is going to be opposite sign, so it's going to be negative, and I have to flip this. Well, this is 3 over 1, okay? So my flipped fraction, my reciprocal, would be 1 over 3, 1/3. So if my slope is negative 2/3, my perpendicular slope is going to be positive 2/3. My slope will be a negative, and then flip it, 3 over 2. My parallel slope is just going to be the same slope. Okay, the slopes are equal. All right, so now let's get into this example right here, which was your assignment. Okay, so we got y equals 2x minus 3, negative 4, negative 7. When they give me a line here, again, I care about the slope, so I'm looking at that. If you don't know what the slope is, again, y equals mx plus b. Write that on the bottom, and there's your slope. That's your slope, too. Now, I want parallel slope, because I don't care about this line. This is not my line. I just care about that my line is parallel to it. So my parallel slope is the same slope, so my slope is also 2. Okay? Alright, now this is an x and this is a y, because that's not my y-intercept that's on my line. It's just a random point. So x and y. How do you find b? What's my b? That's the only thing I'm missing here. So I do y equals mx plus b. Put the y where the y is. Put your slope where the slope is, parallel slope, and negative 4 plus b. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. How do you get rid of a minus 8? You have to add 8 to both sides. B is equal to 1. You got my b, you got my m. Y is equal to 2x plus 1, and you're done. That line is parallel to that line. Same slope, different y-intercepts. My y-intercept here is 1. My y-intercept here is negative 3. Okay, so now let's do a perpendicular, and let's go to standard form. Alright, let's look at this one down here. I messed it up. Let's do it with this one over here. Okay, 3x minus 4y equals 12. I don't know where the slope and the y-intercept is in that. I have to get it down to y equals mx plus b. What do? Again, make sure that when you're solving for y, I want to have y equals at the end. Okay? Y equals mx plus b. So the x has to be over here. So what I have to do is I have to take this and I have to move it over here. How do you move it? Well, you got to remove it. So subtract it. So I'm going to have 12 minus 3x over here. Now, how do you get, when I bring the negative 4, y down, there we go. Now I need to get rid of that negative 4, so what do? I divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, everything. Y is equal to positive 3/4 x, because that's positive. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 3/4 x, and 12 divided by 4 is 3, but it's a negative 4 to a positive, right? So that's going to be a negative 3. 12 divided by negative 4 is negative 3. All right, now, awesome. You're going to feel very rewarding that you solved for y, but know that that is just your first step in this problem. Okay? Good job, you solved for y, but keep going. I am perpendicular to this line. That's not my line. Okay? I'm perpendicular to it. So this slope is 3/4. Because remember, my slope is with the x. Okay? So this right here is my slope. That's my slope. So my slope, but my slope is perpendicular. So what do you have to do? Two things. Change the sign. It's now negative. Flip the fraction. It's 4/3. Okay? Now, if this point is on my slope, on my line, then I have an x and I have a y. The only thing I need to do is find my b. What's my b? What's my y-intercept? I don't know. They didn't give it to me. If they gave it to me, that would be sweet, because that would be 0 and I can just pop it in. Bloop, 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 you know? Again, if they gave me a point that is on my y-axis, that means like 0 a number, like 0,2 or 0,3, then I can just use it. But since they're not going to do that, they might, but if they're not going to do that, you need to know how to solve for your b, your y-intercept. So once you have your perpendicular slope, you can kind of disregard whatever you did over here and move on to y equals mx plus b and solve for b. What's your y? 11. What's your perpendicular slope? Negative 4/3. What's your x? X is negative 6 plus b. What is negative 6 times negative 4? 24 over 3. What is 24 divided by 3? 8. How do you get rid of this 8 here? Subtract 8. What is 11 minus 8? 3. There's my y-intercept. That's my b. So now what is it? Y equals negative 4/3 x plus 3. That line is perpendicular to this line. And you can tell because look at my slopes. They're different. I mean, they're the opposite. Opposite sign, and they're reciprocals of each other. So there you go. That's how you do parallel perpendicular. Okay, if this were parallel, I would just use the same slope. But your process is still the same. If it's in standard form, you have to solve for your y. Okay, once you solve for your y, you can pull out your slope. Parallel means I use the same slope. Perpendicular means that I have to change it to my opposite slope. That means opposite reciprocal. Change your sign, flip it. Change sign and flip. Change sign and flip for perpendicular. Once you get your perpendicular slope, you can plug it back into your y equals mx plus b by using a point. Okay? Plug it in and you got your answer. Y-intercept is 3. And that's your equation. Y equals negative 4/3 x plus 3. Okay, that's it. You got this one and this one. So that is the checklist for the test. You will do well if you just focus, you just have a positive mindset. Okay, you can do this.